The Sahel is a geographical area that is more or less a buffer zone between the Sahara Desert and the African savannas and tropical rainforests to the south. The main countries that make up this area and the ones that are important for this video are as follows: Chad, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Mauritania. While sometimes also referred to as the Maghreb, it is not technically the same area. Now, what do these 5 countries have in common? All of them are currently struggling with the huge surge in Islamic terrorism. All 5 countries are part of the Sahel Alliance, which aims to provide a coordinated response to terrorism in the region. They are supported by the French, the United Kingdom, and the U.S. primarily. Mali is probably the worst off of all of these countries. After a military coup in 2012, the country spiraled into disarray. Starting in the north, rebel groups and insurgencies started popping up and slowly spread south into central Mali. Both ISIS and Al-Qaeda began funding and supporting these groups in exchange for alliances. From 2014 to 2019, attacks by these groups have gone up 500%. 4,000 people were killed in all of 2019 alone, and over 300 people have been killed in the first 3 months of 2020. The Sahel Alliance and the UN peacekeepers in the country have had little success combating these attacks. South of Mali, Burkina Faso now, terrorist attacks have become more and more common. In 2016, an attack at a hotel killed over 30 people. More than 1,650 people have died since 2015, and nearly 1 million people have fled the growing violence in the country. Burkina Faso now shares a border with both Mali and Niger, where most of the fighting is near. But Boko Haram has had a growing presence in the country. Niger is bordered by Nigeria, Mali, and Libya, all countries where conflicts have overflown into Niger. Boko Haram, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda all operate in the country. Ethnic tensions and conflicts between the Fulani and the Hausa people, 2 people groups in the rural part of the country, have also caused violent conflicts in recent years. Chad and Mauritania are the most stable of these 5 countries. Chad has had some Boko Haram activities on their southwestern border they share with Nigeria, Niger, and Cameroon. They have also had a border with the Central African Republic and Libya, which are both currently in states of war. Mauritania has been pretty stable since a coup in 2008. It is being used mainly as a base of operations for their American and European allies. Much of what goes on in Chad and Mauritania is trying to prevent terrorists from getting a foothold in the countries. All 5 countries share a similar profile. They are all very underdeveloped, ranking 160th, 182nd, 187th, and 189th out of 189 nations on the Human Development Index. All have huge parts of the population living below the poverty line, at least 40% of the populations of all 5 countries. Huge parts of the countries are ungoverned. All countries have had a coup or attempted coup since 2008. All have a large Muslim population with at least 50% of the population. All have an average age under 20, who are more likely to be unemployed and unhappy with their country's future, making them the perfect recruiting ground for jihadists. Poor, young, unhappy Muslim men with no government to stop ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Both terrorist organizations seem more and more focused on the Sahel as their grips in the Middle East have weakened over the last decade. But in 2020, the U.S. announced that it was cutting its entire military presence in Africa by 10% by the year 2022, leaving the door a little wider for terrorists to expand their reach into these 5 countries, among others. Quickly, this is just the surface and only takes into account the jihadist aspect of these conflicts. Ethnic tensions, smuggling, corruption, and other local conflicts play a huge role in what goes on in these 5 countries. Still, the jihadist aspect is probably the most concerning of any of these.